Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Maybon Perspective. I'm your host, John Cates, and with me today is Keith Lawrence. Keith, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
As many of you know, Keith is our head of development here at Maybon and CSRA Development. And Keith, why don't you start by just giving us a little bit of personal background, sort of, where you grew up and how you ended up at Maybon doing what you do.
I'll be happy to. It's kind of a crazy route. My
love
dad's retired military, so he moved here in
Okay.
1987.
Okay.
So I had lived in Germany, Italy, Korea, Alabama, Oklahoma, Ohio before getting here and starting in 10th grade at Westside. So I went to Westside High School.
Okay. Where were you born?
Lawton, Oklahoma.
Okay.
And my dad ended up being stationed there twice when I was born and then back again when I was in about fifth grade.
Did he end up back here at Fort Gordon?
He did.
Okay.
He did.
Okay. What branch? He was in the Army?
He was in the Army. He was a CID. He was a polygraph examiner.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he actually
explains a lot.
It does. So when he was it was at Anniston, Alabama. I got to sit in the. He hid $10 and then see if I could lie my way through where I hid it at, and I beat him. So it was actually
wow. Reminds me a lot of Meet the Parents.
Yeah. It was cool.
That's cool. So I know you went to a proud Georgia Tech grad. You went there, and then tell me a little bit about sort of how you got into engineering and developing.
So it was kind of a crazy. My whole pattern of my career has been a little strange. I started at Cranston Robertson and Whitehurst downtown.
Okay.
Did consulting engineering for 5.5 years. Got my PE. My boss wanted to give me a $5,000 raise for passing the PE, and I figured I might look elsewhere to try to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so ended up working with Wayne Millar at Riverwood when I was at Cranston. I did the master plan for Riverwood Plantation. That was part of my project in the rezoning.
Mm-hmm.
And so Wayne worked with Canal Industries and the Pollard family and bought that from them and kind of pushed that project together with EG.
Okay.
And so worked with Wayne for about 2.5 years. And then Bill Boatman was looking for a new homes manager.
Okay.
Completely different career change.
Right.
And so worked with Bill and Mike ran the new homes department, I guess, for probably about 8 years.
Okay.
We did limited development, probably, a section or two here or there.
Okay.
At the time, we did Rhodes Farm, Blackstone, Pepper Hill, and some other ones like that. And then, really the shift was, okay, let's really try to ramp up this development side.
Yeah.
Which is what I really wanted to do. I love it. It's always been a passion. So we started kicking the residential side up, and we had Riverwood Plantation, obviously, was one of ours. Blackstone, Canterbury Farms, Pine Bluff, Whispering Pines, Rhodes Farm. Then we did Austin Heights, helped DG finish up Bergen Place, Orchard Hill. He had Lakes at Spirit Creek, and I love it. It's the best career I can imagine.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a fun thing because I designed the plans, then I worked on the new home sales side, did the construction side, and then the development side. It gives you a completely different perspective on what you're looking for because it's not just the lot, it's the end product to make sure that what you're doing is a community that where you can sell the houses, not just putting the lots on the ground. So it's a complete package. So I've really loved it.
Yeah, that's great. I know one of the things I love about working with you is it seems like if you've got a neighborhood and you want 300 lots and you go to an engineer, they'll give you 300 lots. But can you sell them?
Yep.
Talk a little bit about the difference between, just throwing some lots on a layout versus what are some of the things that you look for in terms of sellability of those lots?
I think it's all comes down to, a lot of times I look at the land will give you what it.
Okay.
The reason I say that, we had a project and it was Pinelands, Riverwood. And we had a little piece of land. It was probably about 3 acres. We could have run a cul-de-sac through it. And by the time you grade it, ran the sewer, ran the storm, you'd be putting these lots on the ground at cost. You would put 5 lots on the ground. You'd have sold them. You wouldn't have made any money.
Okay.
And so just getting the yield itself is not what makes things profitable. You got to look at what's it going to cost you to grade it? What's it going to cost to run the storm? What's it going to cost to run the sewer? And so oftentimes the land has a yield it really wants to give you. You can force it, and there's neighborhoods around that everybody's seen where it looks like, I'm older than you, so you may not recognize the game of Cubert, but it's just a bunch of stair-step things down there, and you have a neighborhood that really doesn't fit the topography. It just you can tell it really looks that way. And one of the things we're big on is making sure we can handle the stormwater, so we do a lot of buffers behind the lots. And you go through a lot of national builder neighborhoods and some other ones, and you'll notice that They don't do that, and it's just lot after lot after lot after lot. No break, no vegetation. We want to create communities. We're not just out there putting lots on it.
Yeah.
We want to create places where people want to live. I think it's where we're taking the pride is to do the best job. Now, every neighborhood is different.
Yeah.
Every neighborhood can't support the same level of amenities as a plantation, but it doesn't mean you can't do your best job in doing that.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
we look at the land. That's the first thing we start with is the buffers, the wetlands, the topography, and we kind of create these bubbles where I can plan this out, and then we lay the lots out and see what's gonna best fit the land.
I know the answer is probably a little bit of both, but do you feel like developing and laying out lots is more art or more science?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I really do. It's funny because I think you have to have an eye for it. And the
for
reason
sure.
I have a better eye than most is because I've seen them built. I didn't just design.
Okay.
When I was at Cranston, we just designed them. We gave the plans to the owner. The owner then built it with the contractor. We'd see it after the fact.
Right.
Then you see things that don't work. And so I think it takes a little artistry in there to make it all of them work because every site is completely different. So it's what worked on one site won't work on another site, and then it becomes economics. You may have to you may look at a site that's 50 acres, and you can get 75 lots, but you have to put a pump station in. Well, this is no longer viable for a sewer project. That pump station is $350,000, so when you multiply it out, you're spending $7,000 a lot to sewer it. And so you have to kind of look at it real quick. I mean, the first thing I always do is pull up the GIS, look at the topo, start get a feel for it. Where's the sewer? And then, you have to be able to visualize what these lots are going to look like on the ground on a piece of paper. I've done it long enough that I can see it in my mind's eye. So that's the artistry that comes into it.
Yeah.
And also just how the lots sit, how they present. Then it comes down to we work with an engineer and he grades it. And we go back and we look at it and say, okay, let me look at that. That's not going to work. These are sitting too high. We got to lower them down, or we got excess dirt. How are we going to manage that? So it's a finesse game between both.
What are some of the small tips or things that you look for to really make a neighborhood special? I mean, is it lot sizes? Is it amenity? Is it, different lot sizes, different builders? I mean, how do you create sort of your ideal neighborhood?
My ideal neighborhood is multiple price points.
Okay.
And so in an ideal neighborhood, we have kind of a garden, cottages, estate section.
Okay.
And the reason is because we offer product price points from, say, $300,000 to $600,000.
Okay.
That means we can appeal to more buyers at one time instead of having I don't like a single price point neighborhood because, you may have people that can't reach that neighborhood that love what you're doing. And then it just comes down to the size. How big of a neighborhood are you talking about? Because you can do a special 10 or 15 lot subdivision that are 2.5, 5 acre lots that are done well. And in itself, it can be a great neighborhood. So it's the final thing is really looking at the product positioning. What will that market actually pay for that home?
Yeah.
So if you took Rhodes Farm is a great example. If you took Rhodes Farm and you wanted to do it in Grovetown, it might be more difficult. Rhodes Farm was successful because we have a lot of doctors and people that work downtown. It's close, so you can do something a little more special. So because
it's not too far from where they work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So and they're willing to pay a little bit more for that type of product because Rhodes Farm is a high end product, and same thing goes when you're looking at Aiken. Aiken, you can do horse farms that we would struggle with in certain parts of Columbia County or even Richmond County.
Yeah.
So it's just really making sure you're building a product that is what somebody will pay for on that side.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Talk us a little bit, and I know we could talk about this for a long time, but just in general terms, like a sequence, what are the steps that you do from, hey, I'm looking at this piece of land for the first time to, hey, we're going to pull the trigger?
Yeah. So it gets complicated. Some of our neighborhoods we work on, most people don't realize this. Before we started Whispering Pines, we'd actually worked on that product for about 8 years.
Wow.
Before we actually broke ground.
Yeah. Looking at the land.
The land, doing the zoning, tweaking the zoning, and looking at the yield. Oftentimes, I'll go through an entire neighborhood. Probably each different phase probably had 5 or 6 variations of a layout.
Wow. Okay.
And completely different.
Yeah.
Because we also massage it to the market. So when we start a project, the first thing I do is pull up the GIS. So somebody says, hey, we've got a piece of property that we think somebody might want to sell over here. I pull up the GIS. I'll look and find out where the sewer is. Try to figure out how we're going to solve this. Where's the stormwater going? Is there an issue with an adjoining landowner? Is it going to require a left turn lane? So then what we do is we do once we kind of check those boxes, we do a layout on it. I do it all in CAD myself.
Okay.
Because so I draw it out, figure out the yield, see if I'm comfortable. Still tweak that. Probably takes 2 or 3 days to go through that process, and then we do a perform on it. And so we use the data from what we're paying to have these other neighborhoods done.
Okay.
We come up with it. We lay the lots out. Look at the. I estimate where the detention ponds are going to go. We place them. We run the numbers on it, and then we just see the viability of it. So we look at it. We believe in always paying as much as we can per piece of land.
Okay.
There's a lot of developers that will, if they could buy it for $15,000, it was worth $25,000. They'll do it. So how we look at it is, so let's say you have to have a pump station.
Okay.
That lowers the value of what the land is worth,
Right?
Because the lots have a top end of which you can't just price a lot. So in our market, a 70-foot lot right now is probably between $95,000 and $105,000 for the lot.
Yep.
If I run the numbers on it and that lot is now $125,000 to $140,000, that's not a sellable lot. So that kills that project.
Got it.
So we do the layout, do the performance, and we see if it economically makes sense. Then the next step after we do that is to say, okay, it's kind of a go or no go for us. Then we'll basically say, okay, we want to pursue this, write a contract, work out the negotiations with the landowner, and then we basically prepare a zoning package. We do that all in-house. So we do the entitlement side. And the entitlement is basically, it is the what a property can and can't do. So it's basically the rules and regulations governing that property. So we entitle it. It's a very similar term that can be applied to it. We get the zoning in place, and that some zonings can take us 6 months to a year.
Right.
We did a project in Columbia County. It was tough zoning, and it basically was a couple tables, a couple times, complete changes of the design before we got it done. So it was 6 months to rezone it. And we've had some that take longer. And so once you get it entitled, get your zoning in place, then we'll turn an engineer loose.
Okay.
So we do some stuff in between that, like oftentimes when we're doing the perform, we may do a preliminary grading plan just to make sure we have a sense on how it's going to balance out. Usually, if you've been around land long enough, you can get a sense. So if it's people think, well, it's a perfectly flat site, it's great.
Right.
That's not necessarily the case. When I was doing engineering, I did Cross Creek Athletic Complex, and that used to be a hog farm. Back before it became, that's where they got the Razorbacks from.
Got it. Okay. I never knew that.
Yep. And so we were out there, and that site had about 2 feet of elevation change for about 2,000 feet. It's all elevation. It's all sand. It's sunk down. Well, we pave a project, put roads and put buildings on there. Well, that water has to go somewhere. So our storm going to the back was 25 feet deep.
Wow.
So it was actually more expensive to develop that site than it had. A perfect site probably has about 5% grade on it.
Yeah.
That's a perfect site because I can get the water off. I can storm water, sewer works, and everything like that without getting too deep.
Got it.
So it's finessing all those in there. So once we get the engineering done, then we turn it in for approval. We go through the back and forth on there. We get an approved set of plans. We bid it, and then we start construction. There's other things like Corps of Engineers, DOT permits. All those things all have to be worked in and massaged in between. And Corps of Engineers, most people don't realize that it's a lengthy process. It can take 6 to 12 months just for the Corps permit.
Yeah.
And they have what's called nationwide permits, which are set up to be fast. When the slow process in individual permits, a Section 4 permit, and that basically can take 1 to 3 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why I tell everybody, they're always like, when are you going to start construction? I was like, it's not quite that easy.
Yeah.
And then you deal with the construction timeline where you've got rain. And I tell everybody, if it rains and you have a site opened up in Aiken County, it's not a big problem. Site opened up in Columbia County, it's going to hold you up for 3 to 4 days. And the difference is the soil types. So Columbia County has high clay content in the soil. High clay holds the water.
Got it.
In Aiken County, it's got more sand, clay, more sand mixed into the soil, so it drains quicker and dries out quicker.
Yep. Got it.
Complicated process.
It is. And that's why they're building so many of these golf courses over in Aiken County.
Yeah, they drain so well.
They drain so well. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Exactly right.
So I know you mentioned a little earlier about the 5% grade. If you were to sort of describe I know it's hard to say what a typical neighborhood is, but what would you say is sort of your perfect wave my magic wand piece of land to start from?
If you get a big project, like a big piece of land, I'd say the perfect site is a 50 to 100 site,
Okay.
because that gets you probably, if you do the numbers on it, it's probably 200 to 225 lots in there. It's
Okay.
a perfect site.
Yeah.
You can absorb some left turn lanes, you can absorb some pump stations, you can balance it out. You get some bigger projects like Whispering Pines and Riverwood. They're great to have, but from a
Right.
development side, you're front loading so much cost
In that
that,
first
yeah,
phase.
you,
Yeah.
as partners in the development, it might be the third phase before.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have to put that money back into an amenity. Could
Mhm.
cost 500,000, could cost 2 million, just depends. I
Yeah.
saw an amenity down in Charleston that Lennar Homes was. It looked like whitewater. I mean, I bet it was a $20 million pool complex they were building with that
Wow.
neighborhood. Now they were selling 810 new homes a year in that one.
Goodness
So,
gracious.
so
Sure.
it works.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's balancing that out. I'd say the
Mhm.
perfect site is probably 50 to 120 acres.
Mhm.
Nothing's ever perfect though.
And I think a lot of people, maybe the misconception out there that the perfect site is flat,
Yeah,
but you
no,
do have to have a
you
little
want
bit
some
of
topo.
change. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't want steep, because too steep means you have basements. Builders and
Mhm.
even buyers don't understand that a basement, they want the basement because they think it's lower price per square foot.
Right.
It is lower, but if the builder doesn't finish it, he gets zero value on appraisal. So
Mhm.
the builder has to put a basement in there, which means that the square footage is now probably 3,400 feet.
Got it. Yeah.
And so what they don't understand is, well, just don't finish it. We have somebody that worked at Maybom. She was not going to finish her house and finish the basement. When she got done, her appraisal was short because she
Mm.
got no value for the basement.
Right.
So she went back in and finished it and got the appraisal to work, but she
Mm.
had to spend some more cash to do
Sure.
that. And
Yeah.
so it's just, balancing that off. The builders don't like
Mhm.
the basements as much because, like I said, it's more complicated, more cost. And
Yeah.
so the perfect site is 3 to 5%, with some creeks on there where you get the water to go off and the sewer's already on site, and
Yeah.
you don't have to do a left turn lane, but that doesn't happen much
Sure.
on
Yeah.
there.
Well, I know one of the things that's great in working with you is, like you said, you were in the new home side for 8
Mhm.
years, and because we obviously are a developer, but we also have a real estate
Mhm.
company. For those out there who are either in new construction or that's of interest to them, what makes a great new homes agent?
I went down to Bob. I did Bob Schultz. I
Yep.
went down and did his sales manager and sales agent training course. It's like a 4-day course. Um, and Bob probably poised it the best, which is your new home agent has to treat it like it's their storefront, like it's
Okay.
their business.
Okay.
Okay, they
Each
have to,
house.
each house in the
Yeah.
neighborhood, they own it. And
Mm.
so when they go in there, they live, breathe, and eat this neighborhood, so that when they're starting on it, they understand that this is their storefront. What would you do if you? And
Mm.
you can't just take it like it's listings. I tell
Yeah.
everybody, I think the misconception that most people have is that we give listings to new home agents. I always tell everybody, we may give you the first batch of 10 or 12 homes.
Yeah.
Look at that. If they do their job, they've earned every other listing that's in there.
Yeah.
And it's a full-time job. And I think that's a
Mhm.
misconception most people have, is that you can just do it on the side and be successful. I mean,
Sure.
it's specialized. It really is.
Mhm.
And I think to really be a good new home agent, you have to understand that you're going to deal with a buyer for,
Right.
as compared to a
Yeah.
resale, it's 30 to 45 days, maybe 60.
Mhm.
But these are people that, and you're going through the selection process, and you're updating, and for the agents, they're updating
Right.
pictures, changing
Right.
listing information. It's a lot more work tending to the. And
Mhm.
we always tell everybody on the new home side, it's a sales opportunity. You treat it like a sales opportunity, which means you want to get that buyer to have you sell them, have you let them sell you that house.
Right.
You sell them that
Yeah.
house.
And I'd imagine too, it's got to be super helpful if those, because Bob Schultz, I know, trains a lot of builders who
Mhm.
have their own in-house sales teams. And I know that what we love is when our agents really, really know those builders and their floor plans.
Yeah.
That's got to be super important.
You should be able to go to it if you've got good quality agents. You should be able to go to that site and say, "Look, I want to do a pre-sale. I'm looking at a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house on 2,600 square feet. Can you give me some options?"
Yeah.
They should know what the options are. I
Yeah.
mean, they should be able to easily get you to that product type, which means it's just you should be the expert on that
Yeah.
neighborhood, and that you should know the builder's product backwards and forwards, what they're putting in their houses. So every builder's a little unique in what they do.
Right.
So if they're using thermoblock sheathing on the roof, which lowers the temperature in the attic, which then cooling costs.
Mhm.
You need to know that to sell that feature because it just looks like aluminum foil
Uh-huh.
on the
Yeah.
sheathing up there. If you don't
Yeah.
know what it's for, it doesn't mean anything. So
Right.
you got to be able to sell the features of them
Mhm.
because we typically most of our builders are all local builders,
Right.
and so we've got to people have to understand why our homes are going to cost more. The only way, and they cost more because they're kind of a production semi-production house, which means they
Right.
let you make a lot of selections and changes to the house. They're not going to allow you to move the walls or anything like that in a
Mhm.
typical house. I said, but you're still paying a higher price per square foot. So then it flips back on me on the development side. Is my neighborhoods have to look different.
Yeah.
They can't look like their neighborhoods, with just more expensive houses.
Right.
But we we're looking for the buyer that wants a good quality home in a great neighborhood, and they're willing to give up a little square footage. That's not every
Mhm.
buyer.
Sure.
That's okay. We can't, but that's why we do 3 price points if
Got it.
possible.
Yeah.
So we can make it up. And for us, it's been the most successful thing is that we can end up with velocities from 60 to 110 houses a year with this approach. And from a development side, we're not greedy. We figure out what it's going to cost to build a lot. We have a margin that we want to make.
Right.
We make it up because we know we're going to sell the lots quick.
Yeah.
We can sell the lots quick if the homes sell quick. So
Mhm.
it's even working with the builders and positioning the product from saying, okay, if we let every builder do what they wanted, they would build whatever square footage house on whatever size lot they wanted. We don't do
Right.
that. We have
Right.
parameters that you can't. You have to be between here and here on this section, and here on this section. It's for appraisal issues. It's also for presentation,
Mhm.
cohesiveness of the neighborhood, so everything kind of blends well together. And it looks
Yeah.
like it made sense.
No, that's great. I mean, and I know I've said several times, we're not some national company. We have to live with what we
hmm
develop.
hmm
And I think that puts a lot of good incentives
It does.
and good pressure on you to build something that's going to last because if not, people are going to know and
hmm
they know where to find us.
Yeah, they do. And I mean, we're active. I mean, I get phone calls when there's an issue between the builder and the homeowner about a drainage issue.
Yep.
As an engineer, I've dealt with it so much. It's probably the number one complaint I get.
Yeah.
And
Drainage.
so it's
Yeah.
drainage.
Yeah.
I can't get this water here. Is this area is wet? And so
Right.
we're out there. We're involved. We manage our president, vice president, secretary of our HOAs. We're
Right.
involved until we turn them over. We're involved with the problems that with the builders and the buyers. And so I think
Hmm.
it's like Maybom in general. We're a full service company. So
Right.
this is not just buy the lot and call me next time you need a lot. We go out
Yeah.
there and help them solve problems. And again, like you said, we live here. I
Hmm.
see these people in stores. So
Right.
I always tell everybody when we're dealing with landowners, is I want to pay you what I can pay you, the most I can, because when I run into you in Publix, I don't want to turn the direction the opposite way.
Right.
And I mean, and we developed great relationship with these landowners
Yeah.
and these people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's best. I mean, I love it.
Yeah, that's great. Kind of last thing to sort of take a step back. What do you think are some of the things that our community needs in terms of product? I mean, do you see stuff out there, whether it's assisted living or large lots, smaller lots? I mean, I know sort of the buzzword for a long time has been, workforce or affordable housing. I mean, what do you see our area sort of needing from a development and housing standpoint?
Yeah, and I was working with an land planner in LRK, and he calls it attainable.
Okay. Yeah.
Because affordable and workforce just has gotten to have a negative connotation.
Sure.
But it's true when most of our neighborhoods entry price point in a single family detached is probably 315 to 330.
Okay.
Um, my son straight beginning his first career, my daughter beginning her first career can't can't afford to
Yeah,
buy
that's not
that
attainable
house.
for
It's
them.
not
Yeah.
attainable.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act, I think, too,
Yeah.
because everything can't be attainable to everyone. But
Hmm.
by adding multiple price points. But I mean, I think if you look at it, I do think we need more attainable housing in Columbia County.
Hmm.
I think Aiken County has a good bit. I think
Yeah.
Richmond County has a good bit.
Hmm.
It's funny, everybody has their constraints. I know I mentioned this
Sure.
before, but in Aiken County, they're having problems with sanitary sewer availability. So that's going
Right.
to slow that market down.
Mhm.
Columbia County wants the focus to be on basically nicer housing.
Sure.
And so it's kind of like you put in your dues and you can come to Columbia County. It's kind of like that. And so
Hmm.
they want to see better quality neighborhoods, which is what we do well. So we love it.
Sure.
And then Richmond County is there too. I think that the challenge with Richmond County, and I've talked to the Development Authority, I think to some degree it is still the school system.
Sure.
You do have the magnet schools, but if your child's not smart enough for those, then you're going to some of these public schools. And so you have to look at your developments to make sure that the school system is where you want your kids to go. That's what
Sure.
I always look at is I try to put myself in everyone's shoes is would I want to live here? Would I want, what would I do with my kids, and try to find a solution to it.
Yeah.
But I think we need more active adult.
Yeah.
There's no
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
Amberley was one of our neighborhoods in Riverwood that did really well. However, Amberley are basically townhomes. If you think about it, they're
Sure.
quad attached.
Yeah.
And so in Columbia County, townhomes and apartments have a negative connotation to a lot of the government officials. And so I think it's a challenge on there. You can get it, but it has to be deed restricted on age, which is a risk on the developer side.
Yeah.
Which means that you only have a certain percentage of people that are not 55 living in there. And so I think it's just a balancing act, because you get yourself.
You've shrunk your pool of buyers. Yeah.
When we did Amberley before the market dropped in 06, 07, 08, there were 35 people on the waiting list for Amberley.
Wow.
As soon as that hit, all of those buyers, because they were downsizing,
Right.
buying there.
Yeah. Right.
They weren't willing to lose that. They weren't willing to lose their equity in that house.
Right.
So they dropped out. We basically ended up like 4 or 5.
Wow. Yeah.
And so, it's
much more market sensitive.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent to better built townhomes. I do think in the right location, because most people don't understand that retail commercial that we have in Columbia County is what it is because of the radius, as you probably know, which is 1, 3, and 5 miles. They look at the rooftops that are within there.
Right.
You spread that out. The national guys and everybody look at the area and they say, there's not enough homes in that area. And so I think you do need more attainable housing.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be done well.
Yeah.
I don't think I think on our side, I don't think anybody wants cheap housing.
Right.
But there's a way to do the right thing, and I think every neighborhood can be planned well.
Yeah.
I mean, it can really be laid out and planned to where it is a good neighborhood regardless of the price point.
Yeah.
Connemara is a great example. That was done by Blanchard and Calhoun. It's right off of Hereford Farm Road. Small neighborhood. They got a mix of product sizes, vinyl sided, but it's still a well done neighborhood.
Right.
And I think when you look at it, it's held up well over the years. It's not cement fiber siding. It's vinyl siding, but it's still well done.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're smart about it, you can still come up with good neighborhoods. But I do think that there's been a push in Columbia County, actually since COVID. I think the larger lots in Columbia County have done well. And I think that there's a mix that can be done. I think you can build a 2,600 square foot house like we've got in Whispering Pines on a 2.5 acre lot. And I think it would do very well. It doesn't have to just be a custom house. It can be a good house, but an affordable house, just on a
bigger
more
lot.
land.
Okay. Okay. That's great. Well, Keith, we're definitely going to have you back. A
happy
lot more to talk, but our time is up. But thank you so much, man, for joining us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.